Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. We are in our Beyond the Numbers series. This is the third year that we have done the Beyond the Numbers series, taking a really deep dive into managing your cholesterol. And today is our third episode in the series this year, and we're going to be talking about medication compliance, taking your medicine. We know we should take it, but why is it so hard to actually do it? Before we get started, I just want to give a couple of little updates to make your webinar a little more enjoyable. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you can't hear, hopefully you can read my slide. Check the audio on your personal computer. Typically it's turned off and you just have to click it, turn it back on, and you'll be able to hear. Please type any questions that you have into the Q&A box at any time during the webinar. You can, if you think of a question, just type it in the Q&A right then. You don't have to wait to the end, but we will queue those all up at the end during our Q&A session, and we will read them to our presenter and she will answer them. The PDF version of the slides and the recording of the presentation will be available on the Mended Hearts website and the National Lipid Association's website following the event. And also everybody who attends will receive a link to the recording as well as all of the handouts that we have available. So before we get started, in case you're new and you don't know about us, Mended Hearts' mission is to inspire hope and improve the quality of life of our patients and their families through ongoing peer-to-peer support, education, and advocacy. The National Lipid Association's mission is to enhance the practice of lipid management in clinical medicine, and the foundation of the National Lipid Association's mission is to improve the welfare of patients and families affected by cholesterol and triglyceride problems. I am Andrea Baer, the Executive Director here at Mended Hearts, and with me today is Mary Katherine Cheeley. She is a PharmD CLS, Clinical Pharmacist Specialist at Grady Health System in Atlanta, Georgia. She's joined us before, and I know that you're going to love her. We're so excited to have her back with us. So Mary Katherine, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you take it over.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks for coming, guys. We're going to have such a great time today. And I first want to address the question that I've been asked, which is, why is it so hard to take medicines? We know we're supposed to, but there's just something about it. It doesn't fit in our daily life well. It's not something that we can ingrain in what we do, but we also know that those are the things that help keep us from having poor outcomes. So why is it so hard? First of all, I want you to know that you are not alone. I am a pharmacist by training. So a clinical pharmacist is someone that works in the office with patients. So we are a part of your care team, actually in the office with your provider, helping make clinical decisions. But one of the things that we do a lot is medication adherence training. So this is kind of my jam in life, is talking about medication adherence. But I first want you to know that you are not alone if it is hard for you to take your medicines. Andrea and I were talking before. It's hard for me to remember to take medicines. It's hard for me to remember to give my kids their medicines. So this is something that we've spent a lot of time trying to figure out, and a lot of time trying to see how we can help patients be more adherent. So you are not alone. And here's some of the data behind it. So we've actually done studies in this. There's a study in 2010, which was then published in 2013, called the Usage Study. So it was about over 10,000 patients who were either current statin users or former statin users. Most patients were female. They were somewhere in the age of about 60, and patients had anything from heart disease, hypertension, to diabetes. And then they looked at those patients and said, okay, why? Why were they either a current statin user, or why did they stop taking their statin? So you can kind of see here in this left-hand side, for current statin users, they still switched their statin. They didn't necessarily stay with their first one, but they found something that they could take. The reason that they switched was because of cost. The purple bar is side effects, or the yellow bar is it just wasn't working well enough, so they needed to change their statin therapy. For former statin users, so people who used to take a statin and then don't take it now, Cost and lack of efficacy were part of the problem, but side effects were really the main drivers for why people couldn't maintain on their statin therapy. But when you look at the total population, cost and side effects are really close. So it's actually more common for people to have issues affording their medicines, and that's why it's hard for them to take it. So we looked into that a little bit further too. A couple of years ago, we did the Statin Adverse Treatment Experience Survey. So a very similar type of patients. It was 1,500 patients. It was an internet survey. And we only wanted patients who had taken a statin in the last 2 years, but also that in the last 6 months, they had some kind of issue with their statin. So they had a change in their therapy or some kind of statin-associated side effect. Then we asked them questions about, what were your symptoms? How did those symptoms make you feel? And we wanted to make sure that we were capturing, why did they continue their medicines or why did they stop? And then again, you'll see that most patients were in that 50 to 60 year range. Majority were women. And we had kind of mainly white patients, but we did have some minority populations. And if you'll look at the bottom, you can see their statin history. So over 56% of patients, or almost 60% of patients, had only tried one statin. And then they were on to their next one, or they discontinued altogether. But we did have 40 to 45% of patients who had tried more than two or more statins. So we had a really good proportion of patients that had multiple different experiences. So like I said, we asked them a couple questions. What were the reasons that you continued your statin therapy? So of the 1,500 patients, we had almost 1,200 that were still currently on a statin. And the biggest reason that they came up with was, I want to avoid a heart attack or a stroke. I think we all want to avoid that. And the next one was, I want to lower my cholesterol, understanding that there is that link between a lower cholesterol and reducing our risk of having a heart attack or a stroke, or a subsequent heart attack or a stroke. And then we asked the other group of patients, about 330 patients, why'd you stop? What was it that made you just not want to continue your statin therapy? And they said similar things on the opposite side. They were bothered by the side effects, couldn't tolerate the side effects. It interfered too much with my life. And those were the reasons that they just threw up their hands and said, I can't do it anymore. I'm not going to be able to continue on this. The most common symptoms that patients reported for those, remember, everybody had to at least have one statin-associated side effect, was muscle aches, muscle cramps, or muscle pains. We also asked them about the impact of those on their life. So they said they had trouble getting quality sleep. A lot of them had, cramps overnight, which interfered with their sleep cycles, or they had reduced physical activity or reduced productivity. But those were the reasons in the stopped group. So you can see both in this one and in the last one, in those patients that are in the light blue, those are the ones that stopped. So the patients that were having more common muscle aches, cramps, or pain, or had a larger impact on their overall daily life, those were the ones that didn't continue with statin therapy. But what I found most interesting about this is that when you work with your provider and you work with your clinical pharmacist, your physician, your nurse practitioner, your PA, there are a good proportion of patients that can stay on their statin therapy. And maybe it's a different drug, maybe it's a different dose, maybe it's a lower dose. So 22% of patients stayed on their medicines, 24% of patients switched completely, but 40% of patients were able to continue on their statin therapy just because we did other things for them. We made it easier for them to minimize that impact on their life. And that's a really important point. If you are having an issue with one of your medicines, number one, please talk to your doctor, your pharmacist, your nurse practitioner, your PA. And we can do something about it. Don't just give up the goose. Something is better than nothing. We need to make sure that we're in that left side of the box that I showed. We're reducing your risk of having a heart attack or a stroke, and we're lowering your cholesterol to reduce your risk of having a heart attack or a stroke. So something is better than nothing. Some medicine is better than no medicine at all. But I think that those two studies specifically, the usage study and the state survey, do show us that there are ways to make sure that you can be adherent to your therapy and not have as large of an impact on your life if you're experiencing side effects. So that's where I always like to start with. It's important that we understand that side effects do happen, but also that there are ways to treat it, and we should not give up just because there's a side effect that happens. So let's talk through some of the other reasons for medication non-adherence. So we talked about side effects. We know that, there's the big laundry list when you see the commercial on TV, but not everybody has those. Those are generally very rare. But they do happen. And if they do, we need to talk to our providers about them. Cost is the other one. This is one of my favorite pictures. I feel like this sometimes when I go to the pharmacy or when I'm ringing patients out at the window. Cost is a really big contributor. And you saw that in the usage study. A lot of patients have to change or stop their therapy because of cost of their medicines. And then this last one, too many pills, is near and dear to my pharmacist heart. Lots of people are on lots of medicines. And so we need to make sure that all the medicines that you're taking, you have a discussion with your provider about, is this one that I really need? Or is this medicine helping the side effect of another medicine? And so we get something that we in the industry called polypharmacy, which is lots and lots of medicines. So we got to make sure that there's an indication or a reason for you to be on each and every one of your medicines. So let's go through cost, because that I feel like is very important. Got to pay up at the window when you get to the pharmacy. If you have commercial insurance, for most branded medications, there are copay cards. That's when you kind of hear on the TV, if you can't afford your medicine, such and such company may be able to help. That's what these are for with commercially insured patients. It usually requires the patient to go to whatever website. So say we're using drug X, you would go to drugx.com. There's generally a part at the top of the screen that says savings and resources or copay assistance. You click on that link and there's a way that you can sign up for a copay card. A lot of those actually come with really good adherence resources as well. So specifically with diabetes and those medicines, they will link you to a certified diabetes educator. They'll link you with a counselor. They'll link you with different resources that help you manage your disease state, stay on your medicines, get the reminders that you need. But they also have a really vested interest in making sure that you have a great outcome as well. So commercial insurance patients can get copay cards, but they also can get other really, really good resources through the company. Whether you are Medicare, Medicaid, uninsured, commercially insured, it doesn't matter. Those resources with their nursing support or their reminders of when to get your refills, those are available to everyone. So I really encourage you, if you are on a branded medicine, so the kind of the weird names of the medicines, a branded product, please take advantage of those. The companies really do have great resources available. It's just, you got to go through their website to get there. But clearly you're on the internet now, so definitely go to their websites and figure that out. For Medicare patients, there are two different ways that we can do this. So commercial insurance copay cards are not available for Medicare or Medicaid patients. So there's a specific exclusion for federally funded programs. Medicare does have two different options. So there's one which is called a low-income subsidy or the Medicare Extra Help. It's an extra benefit through Social Security. You go to the Social Security office or you go to, I actually think you can just Google Medicare Extra Help and you can sign up or see if you qualify for these extra help programs. I love this program because it's income-based, but also it helps with all of your prescription copays, not just one particular disease state, not just one particular drug like a copay card would. It caps your copayment based on your income, based on where you live, based on all of these different factors, which really do help lower the overall monthly cost of something that patients are, of the total cost for the patient. The other thing is that there's foundation assistance. So there's the Patient Access Network, there's the Patient Advocate Fund, there's the HealthWell Foundation. Those are disease state specific enrollments. So there is one for hypercholesterolemia, and it will take care of your copays for any and all of your hypercholesterolemia medicines. So again, not just the one that the commercial copay card covers, but it would cover any of the medicines that are on the list for hypercholesterolemia. It's really helpful if you have multiple medicines that are expensive. It even covers the generic copays. So say, for instance, you are on a generic statin and you're on a branded PCSK9 monoclonal antibody. it will work for both of those copayments. You do have to go and enroll you, or your pharmacy can enroll for you. It's really easy to do. You put your information in, and then they spit you back it's almost like a secondary insurance that they spit you back. It has the insurance information that you would give to the pharmacy. The pharmacy bills Medicare first, and then they would bill the remainder of the copay to the foundation. It is a set amount per year that you get. So it may be $4,000, it may be $1,200, depending on the disease state and depending on the fund. And they're not open all the time. So once they run out of money, they run out of money until they get another grant to help fund that. So if you have, if it's open and you need the assistance, absolutely go get the assistance from them, because it may not be open tomorrow. I've encountered that with several of my patients. The last one is our uninsured patients. So there are manufacturer patient assistance programs. They are specifically for uninsured patients. If you have no prescription coverage at all, sometimes they do cover underinsured patients, but that's per company, that's a little bit different. I definitely would encourage you to talk to your pharmacist about that. But there are a lot of manufacturer patient assistance programs. There's multiple different ways that they work. So some of them will send the medication directly to your doctor's office. You pick it up at your doctor's office. Other ones will give you a kind of like a copay card that you take to the pharmacy, and then the pharmacy will run it through that copay card, and it takes care of the payment. And the last kind would be the ones that directly send it to your door. So it really depends on the manufacturer as to which way they go for that. But definitely, if you're on a branded product, you should look into that as well. The last thing, which are kind of newer, are these savings clubs. So Kroger has a savings club. Mark Cuban even has his own savings club pharmacy now, which I kind of find interesting. And then the one that's most common that most people know about is GoodRx. These are savings clubs that tell you what the price of your prescription will be at different pharmacies. There's different structures to them. So GoodRx is one where literally you just go to goodrx.com, you put your medicine in, how much you're going to get as well, and it will tell you what the price is at various different pharmacies in your area. That's kind of straightforward. The Kroger Savings Club, which clearly you can tell I live in the South because we have Kroger. They have these all over the country, though, at whatever retailers are around you. With that savings club, you pay an annual fee. So you pay X dollars to be enrolled in the savings club. You can choose to be an individual member or a family member, meaning family, total family. You pay X number of dollars, say it's $30 for the year, and then you get a discount on particular medicines. And it could be different ones. So your generic statin A is free, but your generic statin B is $9 for 90 days or $6 for 90 days, depending on which it is. And again, it's not every medication, but it is a lot of generic medications are included in that. Then you have your internet pharmacies like the Mark Cuban pharmacy, which I just find very interesting that he has his own pharmacy now, which are kind of a mixture of the two. They have the model of GoodRx that you don't necessarily have to enroll, but it is a true pharmacy that you're getting it from. And it's not a copay card or an insurance card like you would get from GoodRx. But they have very transparent pricing. He does not accept insurance at his pharmacy at all. So everything is cash paid. And then at that point, you're getting your 90 tablets of drug X. This is the price that it's going to be. So there's lots of different ways to help kind of decrease your copayments, but that just gets the drug in your hand. So one of my biggest things in life, again, is medication access. And I firmly believe that you can't take your medicines if you can't afford them. So I always like to go through this structure because I feel like a lot of people get to the pharmacy window. I used to work retail pharmacy, get to the window and have sticker shock. So if you are that person and you get to the window and it is really, really expensive for your medicines, please ask to speak to the pharmacist. We all went to school to make sure that patients have the medicines that they need. And we all went to school to make sure that you can get the medicines that you need, that they're clinically right for you, but also that you can actually pick it up from the pharmacy. So ask them questions. They are more than happy to help you. Please be your own advocate in that. do your research online, go and try to figure out what resources are available, because you can't get to this next part of actually putting the tablet in your mouth or the shot in your belly if you can't afford it at the pharmacy window. So make sure that you kind of get all of that piece together. But once you do get it, let's talk about how to make sure that you are actually swallowing it. The first thing is our good old trusty Pillbox. I know that everyone has probably seen these, and they come in so many different varieties, but I'm going to let you in on a little bit of a pharmacist secret. Pillboxes are really, really helpful if you are like me and you get to the end of the day and you think, oh man, did I take that medicine today? I can't really remember. If that's you, a Pillbox is your best friend, because you know what? You set it up in the morning, you set it up at the beginning of the week, and I can go back at the end of the day and see my tablets are still in there for Wednesday. Didn't take my medicine today. So then I take it. That is the point behind a Pillbox. Yes, it certainly is great to have all of your medicines in one place and have them all in the same box where you just dump them out in your hand, swallow them down the hatch. But the real point behind a Pillbox is to make sure that you are taking it every day. So again, it's that visual reminder. Ah, shoot, did I take my medicine today? I can't remember. Everything going on around me, I can never remember. So a Pillbox is my best friend to say, hey, they're not in the box. Check. Great job, Mary Catherine. You did it today. That's what they're for. The next thing that you can use are alarms. So maybe you're like me in the morning and it takes you a little bit of time to wake up and there's a bunch of things going on, and you can set an alarm on your phone that every day at 7:30 or 6:30 or whatever time works for you, this is my alarm to take my medicine. So again, you can use this in conjunction with your Pillbox to say, all right, I'm going to make sure that I take this medicine at 6, all my medicines at 6:30 in the morning. Okay, let me set my alarm. 6:30 rolls around and my 6-year-old has already gotten out of bed and I'm dealing with him and my alarm gets missed. Then I have my Pillbox reminder at the end of the day to make sure, did I take it or did I not take it? So all of these can kind of be used in combination together. Alarms are super, super helpful. We all have our phones in our pockets. We need to use the resources that we have. There are smartphone apps. So there are ways, there's lots of different apps that you can use. Choose your flavor. Whichever one works for you is excellent. You can set an appointment in your phone, but these are different ways for you to make sure that you are staying on track and know what's coming down the line. So I find that smartphone apps are really helpful for people who have multiple different types of medicines or multiple different times of day to take their medicines. So say I need to take my levothyroxine first in the morning. Then 30 minutes later, I need to take my omeprazole. 30 minutes after that, I need to take the rest of my medicines. But you know what? I also have nightly insulin that I have to do. So this kind of helps you map out what your medicine day looks like. And then when you're in that medicine day, it helps you check off, yep, took that one. Yep, took that one. Yep, took that one. So it puts together the Pillbox and the alarms in our smartphones. Some of us are more tech savvy than others. Some of us like to have it on our phone. And some of us, I don't know about you, but when I get a meeting on my phone, I literally just swipe it and then I forget about it. So it really is dependent upon you. I like this as a reminder to kind of see what my whole medicine day looks like, for lack of a better way to describe it. Then there's something that I love. So I love storage locations for different medicines. Here's 2 ways that I teach my patients about doing it. My patients are not very tech savvy. They actually do not understand how to use a Pillbox. So we go over that quite frequently, but they just kind of prefer to have their medicine bottles. So these are 2 things that I talk to them about. Number 1 is keeping your medicine bottles next to something that you do every day. So we are supposed to, and we should be brushing our teeth every day, twice a day. So if you have a medicine that you have to take twice a day, keep it next to your toothbrush. It's a really easy place to put it. You'll see it right when you are at the sink, which includes water, and you can just take your medicines at that point. Or maybe you're like some wonderful coffee-aholics that I know. I don't drink coffee. I drink Diet Mountain Dew. You can judge me for that later. That's fine. Put your pill bottles actually in your coffee cup. That means I guarantee you do not go a morning without coffee. If you have that pill bottle in your coffee cup, then that is your reminder. Yep, got to take my medicines. Again, you could put your pill box inside your coffee cup. You could store the pill box in the actual cabinet with your coffee cups. Whatever works for you, whatever is something that you are doing every day, preferably around the same time. Those are the important things that we need to make sure that we're doing to help keep it on the forefront of our minds. Because again, we're not born taking medicines. We're not ingrained as a child to make sure that we are taking medicines every day, like we are for brushing our teeth first thing in the morning and before we go to bed at night. This is something that as we age has to become a habit for us. So we need to find ways to link it to another habit that we have so that we make sure that we're successful, because we can't lower our risk of heart disease. We can't lower our risk of having another heart attack or a stroke without these wonderful, super safe, well-tolerated medicines. So Andrea, I will pass it back to you.
Thank you so much. That was great. So I already have some questions that were sent in to me in advance. And then I just want to remind everybody to put your questions into the Q&A box. Anything you want to know about taking medicines, please ask now. So the first question is there any program or application that provides regular reminders to you and when to take it so that you're on a regular schedule basis? So I'm guessing an app is what they're meaning.
Yeah, there are tons of apps for that. Again, you kind of pick your flavor, but there are also particular manufacturer programs like we talked about. So for instance, some diabetes medicines or some weight loss medicines that are out there do have specific programs where they have either a physical person that can reach out to you to remind you every month to get your refills. Or a lot of pharmacies will do that as well. They'll put you on a program where, hey, it's time for your refill. Are you ready for it? But yeah, if it's day to day, an app is the way to go. Or enroll a family member. There's a lot that our families can do for us. And they also want to make sure that you have a really good outcome. So enroll your grandson or your granddaughter that you love to talk to anyway. Hey, call me and remind me or ask me, did I take my medicines? And that's a really great way to get your family involved too.
Yeah, I like to write mine on the calendar from work because I see it every day when it's time. Because I don't take it every day. If I take it every day, it would be different.
Yeah.
The next question is, if you have little children at home, some of these options aren't going to be useful because you can't leave the medications out in plain sight. So I know you had mentioned the coffee cup, but is there other ideas that you have that may be applicable for people who have small children?
Yeah, I feel this one deeply. So I have a 6-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. And so leaving medicines out is not an option in our house. So my husband and I will, number one, keep them very high up, but we still keep them in that visual reminder in our bathroom. So every morning, like we put our toothbrushes up there with the medicine bottles so that we have to physically go get the toothbrushes from the medicine bottles. Instead of keeping the medicine with the toothbrushes, put the toothbrushes with the medicine. You could do the same thing in your kitchen. You could have your pill box or at least one pill bottle with your coffee cups in the coffee cup. You know, maybe you don't stick it in the coffee pot or next to your coffee pot, but you keep it up in the high cabinet and you keep that cabinet child locked. There's lots of ways to still kind of use the same things while still keeping it safe, because again, you're not going to go throughout a morning without your coffee. I can promise you that. But it's something that we need to make sure that, yes, we are keeping our kids safe, because some of these medicines look really fun. They're fun looking pills. Not for them though.
Yeah. And childproof caps are not really childproof.
They're not. They're very much not.
Childproof, you can't get in them.
Yes. Yes.
And then that's an issue as well.
Absolutely.
So the other question that is posed here is there a similar program or app that tracks not only when to take it, but also queries the patient if they took the medication at prescribed time, providing a record of compliance?
There are.
That would be great to know, like looking back, how many times did I miss my medication in the past month?
Yes. So there are, again, that is the different flavor of apps that you can use. And they all have different features to them. So some of them are purely just a push notification to your phone to say, hey, take your medicine. There are other ones where, like I said, you can kind of map out your day. So you set the time that you want to take your carvedilol and your statin and your Imdur. And then say you're on a PCSK9 monoclonal antibody. Okay, well, I take that the 1st and the 15th of every month. So it plans out what all of those look like for you. And then they do have kind of, I won't call them report readouts because it's not like what we think of as a report, but it will prompt you again. So say I have that it's supposed to be at 9 a.m. Okay, what do you want your second reminder to be? Because these apps know that you don't take it at 9 a.m., even though they tell you to. So they'll send you another push notification an hour later, or they send you another push notification at 12 o'clock, whatever you set for it to be so that you can be successful with it. And then, yes, you certainly can. I have patients that bring it into me in the office and they say, hey, look, this is it. I only missed twice this month. We as providers know that you're going to miss some medicines. It's more of a matter of how can we minimize that? How can we make those occurrences smaller? And then you have to be really upfront with us as well. I don't want to change a medicine that you're not taking. So if you're not taking it, number one, tell me why you're not taking it so that I can find one that does work better for you. But please don't ever go to your doctor and tell them that you're taking something that you're not, because then they'll just add on more medicine and that issue of polypharmacy becomes bigger and bigger. But sorry, that's a long answer to yes.
No, it's a great answer. And it's a great one. And I have a couple of more questions, but one is the autofill at pharmacies are great. But as a family, we're a family of 5. So we have like a million medicines, I feel like.
Yes.
They're never available on the same day. Is there a way to work with the pharmacy to get them all picked up at once?
Yes. So absolutely. Depending on your pharmacy, let me say it that way. A lot of pharmacies have what's called an auto sync program or a prescription sync program where they can, as close as they can, sync things together. So remember, there's still going to be that 90-day, 30-day difference, or you're still going to have your every 28-day medicine that will never be around the same time as your every 30 days, but they can get them as close as possible. The way that they do that, though, is they short you 1 month. So instead of in order to get those medicines to sync together, they still can't fill more than 30 days with your pharmacy, but what they can do is fill 15 days this month. And then when your next one is due, they fill both of them at the same time for 30 days. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit of a pain up front to get them all at the same time, but then also understand all those copays are due at the same time. So if that's an issue, if you're on a fixed income and you'd rather space it out throughout the month, I would actually really encourage you to look into mail delivery or some kind of service that gets it sent directly to your home rather than going to the pharmacy every 10 days or every 4 days is what it seems like. So just remember, if you sync everything together, all those copays are due at the same time, which may be more of a sticker shock, but it is more convenient to just go to the pharmacy at one time. But yeah, a lot of pharmacies do that. You just have to ask for it.
Okay. All right. So this is a really great question. The watcher asks, when you are on vacation, real life habits tend to slip away from us. Do you have any recommendations about traveling with medications and the best way to comply when you travel?
That is an excellent question. And yes, so I think this is still where those habits come into play. You're still going to drink coffee every morning, still going to brush your teeth twice a day. So making sure that you have your pill box that you travel with. So again, first things first, take your medicines with you. A lot of people don't take their medicines with them. If you don't take your medicines with you, find a pharmacy and see if you can get your insurance to approve a short supply for you. A lot of insurances will do that. It's called a vacation override because this happens all the time on vacation. But more often than you would think. Again, I used to work in retail pharmacy. It happens all the time. I think that's where those habits still come into play. So my biggest thing is to find something that is consistent for you all the time, no matter where you are. Even if I am in a different country, I'm still going to brush my teeth. And those are the kind of things that you have to figure out for yourself. And that's also where, again, are you traveling with someone that can remind you? Can you at that point set an alarm on your phone to remind you that that is what you need to do? But if you can tie it to that habit every single day. So I traveled recently to the APHA conference in San Antonio, and I had to take my medicine. I was only going for one night, but still I knew I have to take my medicine, have to take it with me. And it was exactly the toothbrush situation. I get to the hotel, I unpack my whole bag, I get out my toothbrush, and I automatically put my medicine next to my toothbrush, because that's the way that I make it a habit in my life. So if you have that thing that is a habit and not just a location, which is why, again, we say keeping it in the same place is great, but you got to tie it to whatever that habit is. And then it's transferable no matter where you are.
Great suggestion. Yeah, that's always when we feel that slippage coming, is when you're on vacation or you're traveling for work and your schedules are messed up and all of that kind of stuff.
For sure.
Okay, so I'll give everybody one more minute to put any questions that they have in the Q&A box. But in the meantime, I just want to point out that in the chat box are all of our resources that we have. And the final session of this series this year is next week. And it's visiting with my HCP. I know I should communicate with my healthcare provider. Why is that so difficult? We always have really great ideas when we're going in, right? We're going to talk about this and that and this, and then we get there and we totally forget what we're talking about. And so we're going to have some really great tips on how to communicate more effectively with your healthcare provider. So that's on April 28th at 3 o'clock Eastern. And so I have a couple of more questions that just popped into the chat. This one is, if you have muscle pains and cognitive fog side effects of statins, do you tell your patients about the PCSK9 alternatives to statin?
That is a wonderful question. And I'm actually really glad somebody asked about side effects, because I feel like we don't talk about them necessarily enough, but also don't want to talk about them too much. So yes, it depends on the patient. Remember, our PCSK9 monoclonal antibodies are only indicated for folks who have already had ASCVD, so the heart attack, strokes, or peripheral artery disease, or who have familial hypercholesterolemia. Those are the two instances where they are FDA approved. If you fall into that bucket, yes, I absolutely will work on getting the LDL cholesterol or the non-HDL cholesterol to goal. The best way for me to do that is with a PCSK9 monoclonal antibody. I will put the caveat on there though, I am not done just because you had muscle pain or cognitive fog with a statin. More often than not, 9 times out of 10, I can find some statin that you can tolerate. It may be once a week. It may be a low dose of something every day, but very, very rarely do I have a patient that cannot tolerate any statins at all. And that's where it becomes with you and your provider. So my patients and we talk every 2 weeks. We talk every month when we are trying to find something that works for them. And it's really important. We set it up front. I tell them, this is exactly what I tell them. So welcome to my office today. We will find something that works for you, but I want you to know that my goal is to find something that works at baseline, which we will do. And then I'm going to push it. And I'm going to push it again until you start hurting or until you have a side effect. Because a lot of times what we know, and then we'll go back to where we were fine before. But my job is to make sure that you are on the best medicine that we have, which at this instance is statins. And then we're going to continue to add on these other things to get your numbers where they need to be, to get you to your LDL or your non-HDL cholesterol goal. But again, 9.9 times out of 10, there is a statin that you can tolerate. We just got to find it. I'm in it for the long haul if you're in it for the long haul. So let's make sure that we work together on that. And again, I think that's a huge discussion to have with your provider. Just because we are going and adding on a PCSK9 monoclonal antibody does not mean that your statin journey is over. It means that we now have something, that can get it down close to where we need it to be, but that doesn't mean that we're done trying other statins. So come to my clinic anytime. We'll have that conversation.
And I think this question is along the same line. how do people develop allergies? And I assume this is to the statin almost overnight. And what should we do if allergies are developed?
So let's make the distinction between allergies and adverse effects, and I'll talk about both of them. But from a pharmacist perspective, when you say allergy, to me in my brain, that means there is an internal process that is saying this drug is bad. I don't want it in my body anymore. That is what a true allergy is. So we're thinking things like anaphylaxis. I can't breathe. That does not happen often. It's extremely rare with statins. So if that happens, then yes, problem. We won't go back to that statin. We may abandon the class. But that's really dependent upon you and your presentation and what you and your doctor decide, or your provider.
I'm sorry, I just want to let you know, they did say it was a swollen tongue to the point of not being able to breathe. So I would think that's a severe allergy.
Yes. So if that happens, then it is possible. I'll also just give you a little bit of background on pharmacology. It happens with the second exposure generally. So the first exposure, you don't have that, again, traditionally, unless your body has seen this mechanism before. The first exposure is not where you have the true allergy. The second exposure is, because again, it's your body saying, this is foreign. I don't like it. Get it out. Do something, get it out. And so that's where that true allergy comes from. If it is a true anaphylaxis, swollen tongue, that's called angioedema, then yes, we likely may not go back and try that. That is purely an internal kind of your body is saying, this is not right. It's not supposed to be here. I would recommend going to see an allergist. Definitely can't breathe, call 911, go to the ER, do not pass go, do not collect $200. Please go to the ER. That's the first thing. But then also you need to have a conversation with your doctor as soon as you can about finding something else for you. There are two different types of statins, which a lot of patients don't understand. They have two different kind of chemical structures. So there are other options within the same class, but again, that's between you and your doctor to decide, is the risk worth that? Or how would we test that theory? In what instance is it safe for us to do that? But not all statins are created equal. There are ones that are different.
Okay, great. That's good to know, because if you are allergic to one, doesn't necessarily mean you'll be allergic to another.
That is correct. Yeah.
And I think the final question here is, do you find patients stop taking medications because of side effects, but don't communicate like they should and let their HCP be aware of the problem? So like just stop taking it and don't tell them.
All the stinking time. All the time. It is actually one of the biggest things that I deal with every day in clinic is the patient coming in and I'm like, hey, last time we started this. And they're like, nope, you started it. I took one dose and I didn't like it. I'm like, ooh, now we wasted 3 months. So please talk to your provider about it. That's actually the one of the best case scenario. Well, the best case scenario is for you to epic message me or chat me somehow and let me know that you stopped so we don't waste time. But at least you told me. There are far too many times where I see a patient in clinic. I ask 6 different ways to Sunday. Tell me how you take this. How do you remember to take your medicines? And they give me all the right answers. And then I get their labs back and your labs don't lie, by the way. Don't try to lie to me. Your labs do not lie. Your labs look the exact same as it did originally. And then I'm sitting here thinking, well, what is going on? I don't understand. And I call you back and I say, hey, Miss Smith, labs look the same. I am really confused. And then you cough it up. And then you tell me, oh yeah, well, that was too expensive at the pharmacy. You should have told me that. We could have fixed that. Or yeah, I took it for a week and then I had this side effect and I just can't deal with that. Please tell your doctor that in the office. Please don't waste time, because again, this is the lower your LDL cholesterol and your non-HDL cholesterol are, the less likely you are to have another event. And we don't want you to have one and you don't want to have one. So please make sure that you are honest. You're not going to get in trouble. I tell this to my 6-year-old all the time. You do not get in trouble for telling the truth. You don't. It's not something that I'm going to berate you for. I need to understand why so that I can fix it. And I can't fix it if you don't tell me what's going on. But yes, that happens all the time. And I promise you it's, 5 out of the 10 patients that I see in a half day. It's that issue, but I can fix it.
Change that. We're here to change that.
Yes.
Everybody needs to learn how to take their medicine.
Absolutely.
So, okay, great. Well, thank you so much again for joining us this year. We have had a great conversation. We will send the recording out to everybody who was here and also everybody who was registered but not able to attend. And with the video of the patient tips, which is fabulous, you have to watch it, as well as the handout on the top 10 tips on taking your medications from patients. So thank you, Mary Katherine, for joining us today. Thank you all for being with us today, and everybody have a great week. Bye.
Bye.